Minimultipliers back with Todd with our final video. You know, I've talked to a lot of guys, Todd, about how to elevate out, which you've done so well. Again, you've sold companies. You really have the ultimate work-life freedom. Most of the guys I know that know Todd go, that's the one area that I look up to him more than anything, almost jealous how big you've built and how little you actually have stayed involved in it. And you and I, and I'll never forget this conversation, one time, we're talking about guilt and that guys don't move to freedom because when they start to do, they feel guilty about it and they get sucked back in. Talk about guilt and maybe even a little bit about your journey of how you've overcome that to actually enjoy the freedom once you get it.
Okay, so, well, this is going to be kind of short because I never really felt guilty. Okay, but
Okay.
never. And I'll come back to that in just a second because there's some one thing in particular I feel a little bit guilty about, but it has nothing to do about not working. Okay, but I kind of lost my train of thought. We were talking to you a couple times. I know that you're feeling guilty. You had started to give up a lot of control and you weren't working nearly as much as you used to at some point a while back. And you were talking about, man, dude, I feel like I should be doing something, right? And that's when it hit me. I'm like, I got a lot of friends that they sell their company and then all of a sudden they're like depressed. And they're like, what am I going to do? I mean, you don't really have to do anything. You shouldn't feel bad because you built a successful company, right? And the only thing I feel guilty about is I feel guilty that my kids don't get to see the hard work ethic I saw from my parents. My parents worked, both of them, hard. My mom at home most of the time, and then later on when we were older, she worked outside the house. My dad worked 5 days a week, got up at 5 in the morning, came home at 5 and we had dinner. And I saw that work ethic and how hard they struggled all the time. Well, my kids, since they were born, all I do is I'm home. I take them to carpool. I drive every carpool. I go to every game. I pick them up from school. I take them to school. And so I've had my daughter say a couple of times, especially when she was younger, all my dad does is watch TV, talk on the phone. That's it. And it made me a little nervous. And so I really started talking to my kids about working smarter, not harder. And I think it's the one thing I worry about and feel guilty about is that my kids don't see that work ethic that I did as a kid growing up. And I know a lot of you guys did from your parents. So
yeah, but when it comes to enjoying it, you don't feel guilty about elevating out of the business itself.
Oh, I feel
no
absolutely no guilt whatsoever. I mean, it's awesome. Are you kidding me? I get to get up in the morning, work out if I want. I get to go on vacation. I mean, look, freedom's awesome. It's unbelievable. And you shouldn't feel guilty about it. You earned it. I mean, I worked hard. I worked hard for a long time to get to where I was 15 or 20 years ago when I had somebody else take over my first business for me and run. And ever since that one, I've set them up the same exact way. And so if I was going to feel guilty, I've been feeling guilty for a long time. But nope.
Dude, thanks for sharing that. I think the emotional side, guys might underestimate on why it's holding them back from really elevating and getting that freedom that they want in their business. And I think that probably one of the main feelings besides fear, right? One, the other is probably a sense of guilt. You know, I got to be first to show up and last to leave.
That's what we grew up with, right?
Yeah. Yep. And that's not always true. That will limit you at some point if you want to elevate out. So, Todd, thanks so much. Enjoyed hanging with you.
You got it, buddy.
We'll talk to you later.